Alright, this is Photoshop. I'm going to teach you how to use these tools and how to start. So generally when you begin File, New, it'll come up with these settings. You'll see here it has some paper sizes if you want to make stuff that is like a different paper sizing. Alternatively, you can just make it custom like this and then just make it whatever size you want based on pixels or any of these other measurements here. I'm just going to go with pixels because that's easy to understand for me, and I'm going to make this 600 by 600. This is a really good way if you want to make stuff exactly the size of something, particularly in web design or something like that. That way you can make things fit tables perfectly. I'm going to press OK, and you'll see it come up here. So easiest stuff first, I guess. Zooming, you can use this little tool here, which is the zoom tool, or press Z. And you can click, and if you were to right click, you can choose some of these options. Alternatively, if you press Alt on your keyboard and then scroll, or if you click and press Alt, it'll go out, and if you just click normally, it'll go in. I prefer holding Alt and scrolling. That seems to be the easiest way to work around with me. Alternatively, you can be really precise down here by typing in the exact percentage of what you want to zoom to. So I'm going to type in 100. Goes back to exactly 100% of my size. So that's just zooming. This is your selection tool up the top here. Unfortunately, we don't really have much to select. This is good for selecting layers and moving them around. This one here is your Marquee tool, which allows you to cut whatever items you have. So if I was to draw something with my brush tool here, which you can see here, which has quite a lot of cool options with it. But I'm just going to pick the standard brush tool, and I'm going to draw on my first layer, which is my background layer here. You can see here some great artwork. Okay, if I use my Marquee tool, I could highlight a section of it, press Control C to copy it and paste, and I'd have using my normal selection tool at the top, I could drag it around, which is what I just copied and pasted. And you can see it's created its own layer above. So every time you copy and paste or cut and paste something, it gets added onto another layer above the one that you're working on. So I mean, I could alternatively paste, and just make a million of these layers all on top of each other, and you can see them all floating around. It gets a little bit hard to control them. You have to keep clicking through them. This is where like naming them would be useful. You can double click on them and then name them something specific. You can also combine them all together. I could click on all of them by clicking on the bottom one, then holding Shift and clicking on the top one, and then right click and say merge them all together, and this combines them all together like almost like in Paint where everything's in one canvas. Okay, but that's your Marquee tool. It's pretty simple. Likewise, your lasso tool works in a similar way to the Marquee tool. It allows you to draw specifically around an area though. It's a little bit more precise than the Marquee tool, which just draws a box. And it works pretty much the same way. You can cut it, you can paste it, whatever you want. Okay. You might notice that there is a padlock on this layer. This is your background layer. Indicates it's partially locked, as it says. I personally always get rid of this because it's kind of annoying. So you can either do it by making a new layer and then deleting this, or just clicking on it, double clicking on it, and then just saying OK. That'll unlock the layer, and now you can play around with it however you want. You can change things like opacity and all that stuff. Okay. Now this is the quick selection tool, otherwise known as the magic wand tool, which is the one below it. This is awesome. Okay, this is really good for getting rid of solid colors, and I'm going to give you an example of that. I'm going to go back to something I prepared earlier here in Paint. You'll see here I've got the Avengers logo, but pretty common. People want to try and get rid of the white background and make it transparent. Photoshop does this really easily, so I'm going to choose this whole thing here and press Control A and then Control C to copy it. Okay, I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and if I really wanted to, I could make a new document. And what you might have noticed, or you might not have, if you've got something on your clipboard, it'll actually automatically create a new. When you click New, it'll make all the resolution and the size and everything fit whatever you've got on your clipboard. So because I've copied the Avengers logo, it's automatically adjusted a new canvas to fit it. So if I press OK, and then Control V to paste, you'll notice it fits perfectly because Photoshop has sort of preempted what I want it to do. Okay, so this is my new, you can see my old one back here. Here's my new Untitled 2. There's my background there. I'm going to delete that because I don't want it. Now I'm going to use my magic wand tool, and I'm going to click on the white area, and I'm going to press delete. And you can see that it's deleted because it's gone into this grey and white box, which means transparency. And I can click on this other section, press delete, click on this one, press delete, click on this one, press delete, and you'll see that I've very easily deleted the background of this logo. Okay, works really well on things that have very contrasting colors, very solid colors. Not quite as effective on gradients and things, although you can play around with the tolerance up here. But generally works best for things like this with white backgrounds. Again, now that we've got our background removed, all we need to do is save that as a PNG. Now you'll notice I've got this area selected. Good idea to deselect that using Control D, so that nothing's selected now. Now if I go up to File, Save As, maybe I'll pick my website that I was working on before. Again, go to my images. Remember, transparency, PNGs work best for transparency. So use PNG because that will actually have the transparency. You can see my buttons that I made in a well, I'm going to make in a future tutorial. That's messing with your mind, isn't it? Now I'm going to save this as logo, Avengers logo. Okay, PNGs will allow for transparency to work, and then I'm going to press save, press OK, and now I've managed to remove the background very easily, and I've just done something that's pretty common, particularly for Photoshop. Okay, let's move on for some of these other tools. Just say I actually don't want the whole Avengers logo, I want to crop it, so that's the crop tool here. I'm going to drag this down, and I'm just going to get the, I don't know, maybe I don't want the top of the A. I can crop it to there. And then you can either click the tick or press enter, and that'll crop it. A common problem is you can never unselect your cropping. You'll be like, how do I get out of this? You can just change your tool, and that'll help you get back. Okay, that's cropping. Don't really need to work with this one too much, not really for web design. This one's really handy. This is the clone stamp tool. Alright, so I'm going to grab a different picture to show you how this clone stamp tool works, because it doesn't, you can work on this, but it won't be very obvious. I'm going to go back to my paint, and I've got this file. Press Control A, Control C again if you want to copy it. Go back to Photoshop, and then we're just going to make another new one. Press OK, press paste, and you can see here my image. Now the clone stamp tool is really good for subtly trying to change a picture. So just say I want to get rid of this background color here, or I want to delete this part here, but I want it to have a background that is similar to the ones near it. I can use my clone stamp tool, otherwise you'll just get like this big, if I was to just highlight that and say I don't want that bit there and press delete, there'll be a big white box or a black box or whatever. So the clone stamp tool is good for that. So the way it works is you got to choose the area you want to clone using Alt, and you can see your icon turns into this funny little aimer looking thing. And if you zoom in using Alt and scroll, you can see, so I'm going to have a look at this area here. I'm going to copy this section here, and then I'm going to draw it over here. Now, I want to make my brush a little bit bigger, so I can do that by using the bracket on my keyboard. One bracket goes bigger, the other bracket goes smaller, pretty self-explanatory. And another good idea to do with clone stamping is to make sure that you haven't got rough edges. And if you do that, you go up here to this little option here, which allows you to choose your brush thickness. And you want to pick not something like this. You want to have something with a low hardness, okay, which is already selected for me, thankfully. All right, and now all you got to do is click using Alt on the area you want. Okay, now my clone stamp will move from here, and whichever direction my mouse goes, it'll also clone the area that I've just chosen. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but my mouse is currently showing what I'm cloning, and if I drag down, you can see on the right hand side the area that's being copied with that little crosshair. You can see it cloning the background. Okay, and so I've managed to sort of have something, and if you, like you can see there, I've actually gotten a bit of this little speckle. I can just press Alt again and click up to where I want to start cloning from again, and then just draw over it again. Okay, you can see how you can easily erase stuff while making the background look like it's supposed to be there. Okay, so can be a little bit tiresome sometimes if you run out of area to clone. So if I wanted to keep getting rid of this bit, I'd have to keep clicking back and choosing areas to clone again. Otherwise, eventually it'll go too far. Like for example, if I clicked up here and started cloning downwards, it would clone fine until I get to the blue section, and it would start cloning that as well. Which, if for background removal, is not so good, but if I was trying to create a secondary little effect here, that would work, and it kind of has. And it just looks like it's growing out of that section now. Okay, you can see how it works. It just copies the area that's the crosshair is over. So once again, if I click here, start drawing, you can see the crosshair is moving down my screen, and it's just copying everything that my mouse is moving over. And if I do that, it'll just keep cloning, and it'll literally just clone everything from that point. Okay, I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to get rid of that bit. But you can see how useful the clone stamp tool is for creating content or duplicating content or removing backgrounds. Pretty handy to use. If you still don't get it after this, just call me over and I'll show you.